Trump is right. Americans do not trust this administration, and for many reasons, but probably the most egregious of all is the willingness Democrats have shown to play with Americans' lives purely in the name of political power. And joining me now to weigh in on all of this is President of Citizens United and manager for former President Trump's 2016 campaign, Dave Bossie. Thank you so much for joining us, Dave.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I mean, look, it's great that we have the option to take the vaccine, but frankly, many Americans don't want to take it. You know, Democrats have been flip-flopping on this as well, particularly Kamala, as I pointed out. So how can they now demand that Americans believe them when they say it's worth taking?
Well, I think your original point, which is that Kamala Harris is a disgrace. And when it was during the campaign, of course, she was talking about not trusting Donald Trump. And you're exactly right. It was President Trump's Operation Warp Speed that made this vaccine possible, that made it possible to get it out, to wide array of Americans, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of Americans over the last 6 or 9 months. It has been an incredible endeavor. I personally had COVID late last year and got it, I think, during the campaign. And it was fairly well publicized. But I also recently got vaccinated. It's a personal choice. I happen to have a health problem that put me at a higher risk. So I chose for myself to get the vaccine. And I think that that's the responsible thing to do. But every person has that ability to make the decision for themselves and their families what's best. And I think that what the Biden administration has done in their dishonesty in dealing with the economy, their dishonesty with inflation, their dishonesty with the American people on defunding the police, their dishonesty on a host of issues, whether it is the immigration crisis that they created at the border. They have been dishonest from day one, and they are the ones who are responsible for putting the seed in people's minds as to whether or not this vaccine is worth taking. And so I think it's great that the American people can make up their own minds, but it's really disgusting what the Biden administration is doing.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. It's all about having the freedom to do this. And, under what Trump tried to do was essentially get a vaccine out there so it was available so that people had the option of taking it. I think what's particularly interesting about the left's approach here is that it's a forceful thing. They need you to take it. And it just goes to show that they know that people will, in many cases, choose to not take it, especially if you're a younger person who's, very healthy, doesn't have any pre-existing health conditions. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with choosing, what to do on your own accord. That's kind of why this country exists to begin with. But it's just interesting because Trump was here giving the option, whereas Democrats are here enforcing it. And they flip-flop so much. I mean, why can't they just be happy with the option?
Anna, it goes to the point of we're in this point in the summer where we're trying to get our children back in schools. And they are creating this fear once again to allow the teachers unions, in my opinion, to use this as a cudgel to keep kids out of the classroom because their teachers don't want to go back in the classroom. We know through the science, we know through the data that children are not getting it and they're not transmitting it. But these teachers do not want to go back into the classrooms. And it's really a shame, and they should be ashamed of themselves because they should be putting the children first, and they're not. And so we're getting to this point here in the year where big decisions. You look at the Olympics; they're using the fear of look at what's happening at the Olympics. Should they cancel the Olympics? This is going to be a clarion call over the next several days. Should they cancel them? This is about keeping the world and the American people under the thumb of the government. They want to keep the airlines being able to mandate you to wear a mask on an airplane. They're never going to be happy. There's going to be a group of people out there who will never be happy with where we are on the vaccine.
Yeah, that's certainly what it's starting to look like, especially with the mainstream media getting involved here. I mean, you hear about the Delta variant, the Lambda variant. There just seems to be this never-ending fear being pushed by them I mean, where do you think this will end up? Do you think that we'll ever hear from, anyone on the left, hey, this is completely over, no more masks, no more mandates, no more nothing, essentially?
And I think that's wishful thinking. These folks believe that the government is here to control us. It's the opposite of what the founding fathers believed, right? That the America, each individual is the government, and we ordain power on the government, not the other way around. And that is the difference between how we as conservatives view the world and how the left does. And so it's very disappointing and in seeing this every day, and it's been very frustrating. But I got to tell you, the American people are really smart, and they're getting frustrated with it. And I think that this is going to be part of the reason. It's really was really the part of the reason that Joe Biden was able to do what he did last November. But it's going to be part of the reason why Republicans take over the House and Senate again next November, because the American people are tired of it. They're seeing that this incredible economic recovery that President Trump handed Joe Biden has now been just pittered away. This economy is now on the ropes. Inflation is here to stay. You look at what the American people, this gross hidden tax that the American people are paying every day for their groceries and their gasoline and for buying goods and services. It's an insidious tax that does no one any good. And the Biden administration is wholly responsible for it. And what we're going to see with the Biden administration is a continuation of this lie of spending more and more, taxing more and more, hoping to tax and spend their way out of it. And it's never going to work. And that's another reason that we're going to end this tragedy of the Biden administration in 18 months in the midterms.
Yeah, I mean, we have about a minute left, but I do want to get your take on sort of what's happening in a lot of these far-left cities like New York and Chicago, where you see, a lot of these far-left policies basically destroying these cities, such as defunding the police and everything. Do you think that that could cause the pendulum to swing the opposite way, maybe voting for a conservative governor in New York or, in Chicago, at least changing the leadership as far as Lori Lightfoot goes? Do you think that will change at all?
Sometimes you have to hit bottom before you can correct. California is one example of almost hitting bottom, and we're going to see this recall effort, and we're going to see whether Californians really wake up and decide to go a different direction, away from stagnation and economic calamity, away from mask mandates and shutdowns. Are they going to go back towards freedom and lower taxes and smaller government? And again, in New York, the same thing. In Illinois, we're going to see over the next year whether there is a true backlash against the left. We've seen the Republicans be able to win some special elections in the last week that were very telling. They're very close Republican-Democrat split district that Republicans won. And it's telling me that they're driving.
Dave, sorry, I do have to wrap there, but thank you so much for coming on today.